What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Far Rock 22M, aka Infamous Owen, infamous underscore Owen on IG. Man, I was just thinking, right? Back in the old days. And when I say the old days, I'm talking about like maybe 15 years ago, like around the mid 2000s, early 2000s. You know, when it was the 80s babies' time to shine. You know what I'm saying? And if you think about it, right, a lot of that, like from like let's say '03 to about '09, that was the 80s babies 80s, if that makes sense. Like that was the time for us to shine, if you think about it. Because right, that was the time when we had the what they call the mixtape era, the DVD era. That was a time to be alive, you know what I'm saying? Like when we was doing the mixtapes, you know what I'm saying? Like that was a thing. Like you go to Jamaica Avenue, or if you were in Brooklyn, you probably go to Fulton Street or certain places, Harlem 125. There was always a mixtape spot. There was always a DVD spot. You know what I'm saying? If you was in the streets, you made sure that whenever you go hit them spots up, before you get your stuff to go fix it up, you grab one of them DVDs and you know what I'm saying, you watch and see who's making noise in whatever neighborhood that you're not in. And that was like the crazy thing, because a lot of people from that era are doing something now, if you think about it. Just like back in the 80s, a lot of people was invested into rap, kind of like the same thing. You know what I mean? It was a long time ago, but if you think about it, a lot of that money that was coming off of them streets and DVDs and all of that, like I don't think Smack and all of that was putting you on the DVD for free. The come up wasn't putting you on the DVD for free. They was asking for thousands, and people came up with them thousands, and some of them made multiple visits on Smack and the come up. I don't know the business aspect of it, but you had to have bread to get up on them DVDs back then. So what I'm saying is that, you know, that era, a lot of people was flashy. That was the Pele era. You know what I mean? A lot of people was jumping out. You know what I'm saying? We still had like young cats walking around in the streets. I mean, it's the same thing now. It's just a lot of scamming going on. But I would say back then, even in that DVD era, there was still some type of order. There was still some type of organization. Because if you think about it, right, which was crazy, when I was coming up through like I said, '03, '04, '06, '07, I was in my 20s, early 20s, mid 20s. You know what I'm saying? If you think about it, even people our age, my age at that time, in their 20s, a lot of us, well, a lot of them, because I wasn't caught up in that, but there was a lot of indictments going on too. So, you know, just like in the 80s, you know, you had a lot of people being investigated by the feds, you know, trafficking money, doing all kinds of stuff. DVD era, yo, I say this, I ain't never seen so many indictments on one peninsula before, you know what I'm saying? Because back then, every year, there was like a project getting indicted, there was a hood getting indicted, and it wasn't just Far Rockaway, you know what I'm saying? You had 40p, they was getting indicted, Baisley getting indicted, a lot of people was getting indicted. And what's crazy is that a lot of some of these rappers came from a lot of these hoods too. But I'm not saying anything like it's tied in, but what I'm saying is that a lot of these rappers that was coming from a lot of these hoods back then, you know, they had connections to that underground world, just like how it was before. But back then, like I said, it was just so different because this was before technology really took over. I mean, this is when Clout was still in the streets, I guess, and it wasn't on the internet, so you had to be who you say you was, or at least perform who you say you was, and you had to do that outside. You had to come out, you know what I mean? Couldn't just take pictures and put it out there. It wasn't working like that yet, you know what I'm saying? But back then, like I said, technology ain't have a hold on us. There was still some type of organization going around. There was still some type of order. But also, That's why there was a lot of drug indictments. I come from that era. A lot of drug indictments. Just like 20 years before that, drug indictments. But I think it was more serious back then. But I guess since we come from that string, it was still something similar. And like I said, it wasn't just happening in Far Rockaway, but there's not one complex out here that did not get indicted. In fact, there was a time when they had Operation Sandstorm. That's when I think it was like 96 people got locked up behind that. So yeah, they wasn't playing. And that wasn't the only indictment. You know, they had Operation Bloodhound and all kinds of stuff. Like, I don't know if it was Bloodhound. I forgot what the name was. But it was a lot of indictments. Every complex got indicted at one time, even some twice. You know what I'm saying? So it was just different, man. But what I'm saying is that just thinking about it, it's like, damn, sometimes history repeats itself. You know, people had the jewelry, the cars, the levers, coming out, showing out, the clubs. Clubs was crazy back then, you know what I'm saying? Clubs was still popping, still had to be out. A different thing. But now, I don't know. I can't speak for it because I'm not in that crowd. But it's definitely, you know, I went to a club a couple of times and it's not how it was before. But a lot of people was on their grind back then. And it wasn't just about drugs. A lot of people was investing into making DVDs, selling DVDs, copying DVDs. There was so much avenues, and a lot of people came up, and a lot of people got indicted behind that because even making DVDs, that's like counterfeiting. So, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people went down for that. It was all kinds of stuff. But it was a time to like be in your 20s or be a teenager and live it out, because that was like the last era of like, I feel like real authenticity, man. You know what I'm saying? There was no BBLs, none of that stuff going on. And if it was, we didn't see it. We only saw it on TV, or the hottest porn star or something, or a celebrity had it, and you wouldn't even know it. But it is what it is. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, back then, that era was our 80s. You know what I'm saying? If you wasn't out there making some type of money doing something, you felt like a sucker. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, damn. You know? But if you was out there doing something and you was consistent, which is still the same way to this day, you was gonna make money, especially if you was living on the land or living off the land, you was gonna make some money. Now, it's just a lot of gang indictments. That's what you see now. Gang indictments, people getting locked up for murders, shootings. That's all you see when they are raiding a bunch of people and doing that. And there's not too many people that's doing that. So that's why I guess these indictments ain't like how it was. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't really want people selling drugs in the neighborhood anyway. So, but it seems like that's not what they after anymore. Or not so much, or maybe that's not what's going on. Because you stand out here if you're selling crack. You stand out if you're selling that other shit. Before, there was a lot of people doing it. You just had to make sure you didn't stand out. That's all it was. But now, it's all about shooting. We live in what they call that, a killing era. And that's what it is. People shooting things. They more interested in guns. Before, it was who got the stuff. Who got the stuff. And that's what a lot of young cats was into back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't be shocking if you seen an 18-year-old in a foreign car. That's his. Because he had a little krill flow. You know what I mean? He had a little hard white flow. It be like that sometimes. So, but I was just saying, like, it was just crazy, like how it repeated itself. Now I guess it still is, but it's more of a digital era. But it is what it is. I'm not gonna hold y'all up. It was just something I was just thinking about. You know, y'all make sure y'all have a good day. Like, share, subscribe, donate if you can. Sandman O. at Cash App. But most importantly, like, share, and subscribe. Peace out, y'all.